Greetings, 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 and welcome once again. This is Emunah Yisrael, Solonomics 101, do-it-yourself, soul improvement, some would say expert, mastering the self. This is what we're about here. Again, the home of the Left Project. Do-it-yourself, soul improvement, some would say expert, mastering the self. This is what we're about here. Second. Again, the home of the Left Project. You see that I was getting feedback on this side. That could possibly be what it was. And so I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We have a special guest. We have a home panelist, Sister Mayanah Johnson, as well as Sister Shelly on. And we have some viewers who, we implore you. Let us know. Come on the panel. Have the discussion. We thank you for tuning in. We have been going on. This is the fourth installment of looking at author Ro Cutno's book. What's the name of the book again? Man Leads, Woman Follows, Everyone Wins. And why is this important? Well, we're going to come into showing you why this is important, why we're having this discussion. In social media land, it has been swirling around for some time. Many people are just discounting it just based on the idea. They don't like the idea. And we kind of don't like to do that kind of thing around here. We kind of like to interrogate whatever is causing an issue or possibly an issue or maybe a stir, and then go into the spaces that probably are the problematic areas and see, what's going on there. How can we learn from it? How can we grow? And that's just basically what we're doing here. Is this beneficial to our community? We definitely had some feedback from last week. And last week we were told you guys are not starting at the beginning. You're not being fair. So last week we did the introduction and chapter 1. This week we're going to do chapter 2 and hopefully chapter 3. And I want to introduce Sister Mayanah at this time. Sister Mayanah, how are you this evening?
Hey, shalom, everybody. I'm doing well.
All right, welcome back, Sister Mayanah. And there's some pots stirring all over social media. I can't even I can't even touch all the pots that stir. Sometimes I just got to sit back and watch. But I think it's all interconnected. And again, as we continue on being willing to unpack some of this stuff, we will see how much that it really is one connected to the other. And so thank you for joining us again, Sister Mayanah. Sister Shelly on, she's new on the panel. And again, brothers, please don't be like, you should get some brothers on the panel. If you're a brother and you think we should get some brothers on the panel, come on the panel and we could talk. Yeah.
Right.
All right, Sister Shelly on, welcome. How are you this evening?
Greetings. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on. At this point, we're having a little feedback. But don't worry, we're going to work that out. We wanted to say that, or I wanted to say, and then I'll give Sister Mayanah because she was here as well as last week, see if she has some thoughts that she wants to bring us up to speed. But I wanted to say, in all fairness, as we were talking and, going back over this whole conversation, this book was written back in 2013. Okay, and so we have to allow space for people to grow and elevate beyond the thought. This is why they have, people where you republish different editions of the same book as you grow and more information becomes available. Just kind of like the dictionary. You understand? You can't be like, yeah, see, this is what you said in 1832, because look how many editions they had since then. I'm not really aware that the sister has made other editions, but she is very still active on social media. And so because we're doing this comparative analysis, we kind of go over there to see, has this thought changed? Has the thought evolved? But one of the interesting things that I saw in this process is that on one side, we read in the introduction that she worked for 8 years as a director. I believe it's of a trilingual school. Sister Mayanah, it's a trilingual.
I think yes. I was the first trilingual preschool in Atlanta. It's a preschool in Atlanta, yeah.
First trilingual preschool. So we read that actually in the introduction. But on the other hand, as we are looking to see, has she grown in the space or in her doctrine that's coming out of this book, I came across something that I was like, that stuff that make you go, in which it says, I've never worked a job. And so I'm like, well, which one is it? Did you work as a director? Because the whole premise is that women should stay at home and take care of their family. And let me just say off the bat, I stay at home and take care of my family. So by, definition, I can't be my own hater, because what she's speaking about is a lifestyle that I live. Now, to the degree that she's speaking about it, for me personally, that's what comes into question. But as far as, you know, I'm saying, no, burn your bras, and no, that's not what I personally am saying. But I do have objection to some of the things and some of the extreme ways that she brings across this point and kind of shames people who are not able, who do not have what some consider in today's time a liberty to stay home with their children, and kind of guilts them into a space that I think requires a little bit more than the tactic that's being used. But that's just something I wanted to update, because I saw that and it just made me go, Sister Mayanah, what are your thoughts, or what can you bring us up to speed? I know we had some questions about some dancing on the comment section, so I just wanted to remind you about that. But I'll go ahead and refresh the mic.
Well, I think that and we should go ahead and talk about the examples that were brought up with the intention of trying to bring our attention to something else, when in fact it just wound up proving our point. But before that, with regard to whether or not there has been some growth in the Cutnoic approaches, I have to say, ever since we have brought to the attention of the people that Cutno has historically not addressed the issues of the people, has been silent on the factors that have brought our people to the place that we are now, and the fact that everything that's in the book is very Eurocentric in its approach and its expectations for the demographic that she's talking to. And whereas her supporters may want to defend her actions, she, however, has changed. Ever since then, we can see that beginning in November, maybe the very, very end of October, as a response to us saying that, there's the cult of domesticity that doesn't apply to us. Now all of her new memes, because she's very meme oriented, all of her new meme promotions now reflect this idea that having tea at the big house was not something that our great grandmother could do. And it's not something that reflects our condition or our aspirations at all. So she has adjusted her marketing strategy to reflect the information that we are giving the people. So it's good to know that she's listening, and that if she's going to deal with this population, that if she's at least going to be sensitive enough to start to include relevant topics and not continue to infuse things that are detrimental to the people. So for on that regard, I see you.
All right, so that's the voice of Sister Mayanah. Again, hopefully, and then I'll come to Sister Shelly and see if she's abreast on this conversation before we actually get into it, because she's new to the panel. But I just want to say that conversation and critique is part of growth and elevation. We are used to, in our circles, our spheres, our social, whatever you want to call it, that the minute that someone, we can applaud for all things good, but we better not say anything as it relates to what can improve. Now, as it relates to growth, that's problematic, because you're going to have a lopsided conversation. Because if we cannot reprove one another in love and still be there the next day to be able to continue forward, then we always have to start over from the beginning. I didn't like the way you said that. That's it. I'm out. I'm going over here to start over. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for those of you who are listening and think that somewhere along the line, speaking about something critically means that you hate the person or you hate the individual, it's not so. When you go into other areas, when you put something forth, like an artist putting his work in the museum, you have put it forth for people to applaud you and to critique you. When you put forth a book, it's for people to say, I like it, I don't like it. Here are the reasons why. Here's what I think. Now, again, it's opinion. Some places it's conjecture, and other places it's critical analysis. Now, as an individual, you can choose to take it or you can choose to leave it. But one of the things that we hope that we get across here is that we're bringing our conversation as women, because mostly women who are on here right now, and men, to another level, so that we can learn to be civil to one another. We don't have to go off into cursing each other out and carrying on all kind of crazy. See, look at them crazy Negroes. I told you they don't know how to act. You understand what I'm saying? And so while we're reaching out to one another, we have to understand that other people who don't know you are watching you. And if you're representing the true and living power, we have to make sure that we are representatives of the true and living power. So with that, Sister Shelley, welcome to the conversation. Are you familiar with this conversation, or are you going to be like a just brand new to the whole thing?
Somewhat familiar, but overall, I did a lot of research upon this cult of domesticity. This West Indian tongue always gets in my way.
Yeah, that's a crazy word, though. It's a crazy word.
Yeah, it's very much the whole principle behind it is just amazing. And for our community, it doesn't even apply to us. We're taking on something that these are for these people. You know what I'm saying? What they're doing, and we're kind of taking on these things upon ourselves with all the additional pressures that we have on ourselves day-to-day life in our community. So I looked up research a little bit where all this was coming from, and why people are buying into it. I could see why, but I don't agree with it. Okay. Fully. I don't agree with it fully, I should say. There's certain areas.
And I think that's the lore, and we're gonna get into it, because the lore is, as you said, as we've been saying on this, is that first of all, I didn't know, again, like the story goes, Mayanah says, "Hey, this looks strangely familiar," and she gives the Stepford Wives, and I go and watch it, and I'm like, wait, hold on, Mayanah, and I still dig a little more, and I'm like, Mayanah, go to domesticity. She's like, what? I'm like, here, and this is how it kind of, truthfully, she could tell you, it kind of just blossomed into this, oh my goodness, and then because for those who don't know, I've been doing the whole slave narrative study collectively for like the last 11 months now. I'm like, oh, that's what they were doing in the big house. Like I saw it, but it finally clicked when the whole thing came out. That's why I'm glad for this conversation, because now we're watching Queen, and I'm like, oh, chill, there goes again. And so it's always been in our face, but because it was kind of a secret culture, this is why they call it a cult. It was an interior culture. It was a middle-class European culture that our foreparents, if they were house slaves, would have been exposed to. If you were field slaves, you wouldn't even know nothing about it. All you know is that people are dressing up in their fancy shit, and you gotta keep cutting that, whatever the case may be, so the housemaid could do what she does. And so it just started clicking up. And so it's a beautiful thing when this comes together and we get to understand that some spaces, some parts of it was taken from our culture, and other parts are taken from their culture, and they're exaggerated. So without further ado, I know we took a long time to do a running start up to chapter 2, right? But we're gonna touch a little bit on it, because it's a lot of stuff in here. I have read it. People say you should get a man. I have read it to a very masculine man, and even his face is like, huh? Well, when is all of this gonna happen? So let's go ahead and start. Chapter 2 speaks about the manual. It says, be very serious about the quality of your woman or wife. Again, I can't argue with some of the things that are just pretty much practical. She said it in the introduction. Some of this stuff is practical. Some you never heard before. So the practical stuff, I personally can't argue it. I'm going to say a few ones, and then you let me know, what point you say, whoa, whoa, whoa. So A says, is she fit to be your supporter, your assistant, the mother and nurturer of your children and your lineage? She should have the ability to teach beauty, positivity, compassion, patience, wisdom, grace, appreciation, and respect. So she should be a teacher. She should be willing and able to bring qualities, moments to your daily family life with grace, no matter the budget situation. So I'm imagining some level of creativity. She should agree that she needs you to properly raise a family with your masculine love. You guys should be on one accord. She should be feminine and warm enough to provide acceptance, peace, patience, and respect for herself and you, self-respecting individual with balance. 4, she should be soft-spoken, clean, taking care of the home, a dedicated cook, health-oriented, high affectionate to you and any children, willing to, and then she says, willing to make love enough for your appetite, and should be also feminine enough to stay focused on your family happiness, comfort. In other words, she should be a real nurturer. A woman are naturally wired to be. Any objections so far? We up to, what is that? H? We up to G?
I did not. Hold on.
No objections from me.
No objections so far? All right. Let me continue. See? No objections so far. She should clearly agree to let you lead the family, even if it's just the two of you. H says a woman should, with such dedication, does not realistically have the time nor energy to work outside of the home. Also, your woman will be happier and more energetic not working. Maybe it's time we all wanted less again. We don't need 2 cars, private schools, catering, excessive shopping if the woman is dedicated to the home. And even if you need to teach your woman these virtues, or if you need to choose a woman who is more suitable, you should not accept anything less. So that's the first, I would say paragraph. It was kind of written out like a list. That's the first intro paragraph to the manual. What are your thoughts? Any feedback?
We're up to
We're up to 1. We just finished 1.
All right. For some reason, like my copy is jumping around. Chapter 3.
So we're on chapter 2, and that was the intro. Basically, nothing alarming.
Right. In chapter 2, I thought we covered chapter 2 last week.
No, we did the intro last week in chapter 1, and now we're doing the chapter 2, which is the manual. And then we're gonna go forward because again, some of the argument is, oh, you didn't read the book, or you didn't take the course. Right. You don't understand. And she says some good things. These are some things that we can't take for granted that people know. And the reason being is that, as a people, we have been destroyed. Right. So we haven't oftentimes seen things laid out in this manner. Now, in the European world, which we came across, there are plenty of manuals that have been written over the years that look very similar to this one. One of which I came across is called Man of Steel and Velvet, which I've been taking some quotes from and sharing it. It says a lot, and the author is Aubrey P. Andelin. Sister Mayanah, what's the name of the other book? The Mystique book.
Oh, the Feminine Mystique?
Feminine Mystique.
Right.
Which is another one. So there's a number of manuals that Europeans have been writing over the years that kind of speaks to how to be a man and how to be a woman, and even further than that, earlier on, this cult of domesticity, this conversation of, how to set your table and, how to pour your tea and how to entertain your guests. All of these things like this is very much what they have never stopped doing. It's just that we were disconnected from our rites of passage, if one would say that, in spaces where we came from. So they kind of just left us to our own devices in that way. I'm gonna go to 2 now. It says here, it's your job not to allow any, all capitals, emasculation from your family at any time. And so this is where some women will say, whoa, what does this look like? So let me know if this is pretty much accurate, and if we could go on to the stuff that is really, really alarming. So I'm just testing the levels right now. She says emasculation lowers a man's testosterone level, which is believed to negatively comprise a man's will, his mood, his physical strength, his immune system, his sex drive, his sexual ability, his sperm count, sperm quality, his work performance, and his patience, his nervous system, his self-esteem, and his self-respect. Avoiding emasculation is literally a matter of health and safety for men. Men must be serious about protecting their masculinity or risk losing everything. Has anyone heard of those things as it relates to the man's masculinity?
I have not heard of it having those physical effects, but I guess if anyone is under any sort of stress or feel any sort of stress or being threatened in any way mentally, it can cause some kind of physical changes, but I've not heard it have done that.
Thank you for that, Sister Shelley. On Sister Mayanah?
Not at all. A lot of, I want to get the direct quote again. Okay. I'm sorry, 'cause I was listening to you and I was trying to get the quote. We're on number, right. But this, she does a lot of trying to insert science into what she's trying to say when it comes to the nervous system and the effects of testosterone. What the point that she's trying to make, that you don't belittle or emasculate a man, is relevant, and it's valid, but she doesn't have to, kind of add all of this other assumptions around it.
Okay.
Protection of your masculinity means no belittling you, no talking down to you, no ignoring you, no laughing at you, no humiliating you. I mean, on the surface, all those things are correct, but she's not acknowledging that every time someone offers another perspective to you, she's not belittling you or talking down to you. It doesn't feel like space for the woman to say anything that might give the man something to think about. If he's the only voice in the conversation all of the time.
Sister Mayanah, can I just say 1 second? It sounds a little muffled. Not sure if you're close to the mic or if it's down or vibrating on something, but speak again.
Is that
Hear you?
is that better? Is it still vibrating?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay, I was saying that it seems as if she doesn't really allow for the feminine principle to engage in conversation. She's making valid points to say you don't want to belittle him, you don't want to make him feel less than, or you don't want him to feel ignored or humiliated. But she doesn't. She kind of doesn't make it seem as if you can give a dissenting opinion.
Right.
Because if you have a dissenting opinion, then all of these other negative consequences come along with that. So there's no room for the woman to to participate in the conversation. The man is the only voice in the conversation because everything else can potentially be perceived as belittling.
Right.
And I think that whereas she's correct to say you don't want to make your man feel discouraged or you don't want to make him feel small, it would for me it would have been helpful for her to
Have some stats.
she's not gonna give us any of those, but to but to kind of, I don't know, for me I think that she makes every thing the female. I do hear feedback too. Is it very, very bad on your side?
You hearing feedback? Let me go ahead and mute my mic and let me know if you hear it now. Hold on 1 second.
Look, I'm just concerned that the listening audience may be hearing feedback also, and I don't want them to. I'm not hearing it now.
All right.
So,
when anyone else is talking, then I'm gonna mute as well, so we don't get that feedback. But go ahead.
Okay. But yeah, those are my thoughts on on the first three. It's that she's only allowing the woman to be kind of a silent accomplice in everything, and then she kind of gives the impression that anything a woman might add to it will have these negative consequences of being belittled. And she's in these first three parts. It's not your job to allow any emasculation. She's asking the man to put up a wall against his woman and saying, don't let her do this to you. Like, be on the lookout for this kind of behavior. So that once you create this kind of fear about what the woman might say, what the woman might do, I think that it creates an atmosphere of paranoia. So that like I said before, if there's a conversation, he could potentially perceive it as all of these things just because she's has a different view for him to consider.
And I could definitely see where you're coming from with that. For those who've just joined us right now, this is the 4th installment. We are currently talking about chapter 2 of Man Leads, Woman Follows, Everyone Wins. And we've said it a number of times while we're going into this, because again, as I said just a while ago, something for the consumption of, and I think Shaza Ali did something to this effect some years ago. I think it was called the Guide to Understanding the Black Man, or the guide. It was kind of like that. And as a matter of fact, I got to go back and check that out, because now that I just said that, I might want to go back and check that out as well. But what we're looking at here is an attempt to try to piece back together a brokenness within the relationship structure. And like Sister Mayanah was just saying, we're currently on 2 where it says it's not your job, speaking to the man, to allow any emasculation from your family at any time. What I see in this B portion, the protection of your masculinity, is this hypervigilance, as Sister Mayanah is saying, this space of which now people in and around you have to walk on eggshells. This space that you can't interface with your counterpart. And so that puts what we know the Torah calling her the Azir, it puts her in a space where she can't necessarily do her job, because now she's outside of your dome that you have created around you. And again, if the person we're talking, and this is my objection, if we're talking about broken people who, for the most part, if they have not done the internal work, they're going to have hangups. Everything could be perceived as disrespect. Everything could be received as emasculation, because the self-esteem to begin with is not healthy. And so again, she is going to go on to speak about what she classifies as a healthy individual. And as we stated earlier, or last show or the show before, many of us wouldn't even qualify because of the post-traumatic stress that we have been under intergenerationally. And so I'm going to continue here. So B is a little bit objectionable because it needs a little clarification, because again, it creates this environment that the home is, instead of order, it's kind of like this militaristic type of interface with the masculine principle. Gentle caring is needed, and your wife does not need to serve you, but still the man should always be respected. I think that's interesting, because she's going to go on to say that she needs to serve you, but in C, she says she does not need to serve you. So I'm a little bit confused with that. D goes on and says, even after 40 years of marriage, a man still cannot forget to demand respect from the women and children in his life. The day a man forgets to demand respect is the day his women and children will forget to respect him. So I'm going to read to the end, because this is interesting to say that in and of themselves, once you carry yourself in a respectful manner, that there's no internal things within inside of you to say, hey, you need to respect me. And so this demanding of the respect, I kind of want to know how that goes. But I'm gonna give it over to you guys. Let me just finish reading this little thing right here. It's against their nature, meaning the woman and the children, to be able to choose who to respect. It's against the nature of women and children to be able to choose who they're going to respect. Women respect men who demand respect, and no other type of man. Ask any woman if she would be attracted to a man who lets her slap him in the face, and she will always say no. Sister Shelly on it, then we're going to come to Sister Mayanah. Sister Shelly, your thoughts?
Oh my goodness. Oh, it's against our nature and the children's nature to determine who demands respect. Wow. That is interesting. I don't know what to say about that. That is very interesting, and I think very incorrect. I mean, you are really saying that women, okay, we're supposed to be the teachers, but in the same book, you're saying we don't have the capability to raise children who are going to be males and females, men and women, to be able to discern who needs respect and when the respect should be given. So on one hand, you have to be in the home, you're the woman, you're going to teach the children, but then you're lacking this basic either common sense, or whether you want to say it's going to be something that you an intuition or something that you learn as you go. How are you supposed to teach the children this? How are you supposed to end up making young, male children become men and be this powerful structure? Ah, wow. Wow.
All right, Sister Mayanah, your thoughts on that as it relates to, men, what's that, children and women? Uh,
She
yeah.
she really has a way, as the volume continues, of diminishing the intellect of the woman and the way in which she conducts herself. She very consistently likens the woman to a child. So it's not completely, unexpected for her to have women and children in the same line and at the same capacity for understanding something. It's interesting here that she says that women don't have the ability to know, to choose who to respect, but she goes on, just a couple of letters down, a couple of points down, she says that women by nature look for a leader. So the nature of the woman is to look for someone to respect, but in her estimation, the woman doesn't have the capacity to choose who that leader will be and when to respect them. And that the man has to, by force, implant this into the woman. Because he said you have to demand it, the problem for me with this point and for the majority of the volume is that it's against Torah. Like, Torah doesn't support this at all. Torah says that you don't have to demand anything of the woman, that the woman is going to yield it to you, that she's going to give it to you, which means she knows and can identify who deserves respect. Every man doesn't deserve respect. So basically, any guy who picks up this book and gets to point D and just starts, dictating to the feminine principle, you must respect me, and starts to forcibly put her into subjection, then that's the one she has to respect. It sounds like a psychological experiment. Like when the experiment responds to negative reinforcement, you beat it out of the person. You beat the person into submission. Slaves were, you remember, you had to break the will of the slave. You're telling her, you have to break her will and make her follow you. This is not a woman that loves you, that you had to demand any of this. She doesn't. Where is the cultivating of trust? Where is the demonstration of will? If you can provide for her and you can demonstrate that you will protect her, women yield to things. Women are responsive. Women reflect. If you do the things, you don't have to, you know, uh, come this aggressively at a woman, which again is something that I find peculiar, because she's always trying to emphasize the fragility of the woman, and yet she asks the men to be so aggressive with her in these ways. We talked before about her meme campaigns, and she tells you have to. She uses very aggressive language. You have to tame her. And I think at one point, didn't she advise? Whereas she's saying for a woman not to slap him, didn't she tell? I want to say that, and correct me if my memory is incorrect, but doesn't he have permission to slap her if necessary? Don't make me track down this meme.
I would
But if it's necessary, he can put hands on her if it becomes necessary. Whatever it is to tame her and to break her, these things are acceptable, because she needs to. For her, breaking the feminine spirit is what is necessary for the man to take control. Which I think any good sociologist will tell you that if a man, if anybody has to come to you with that type of force, then this is not someone who is confident in their ability to lead.
and that's very interesting. I don't remember that specific meme, but
I'm gonna.
thank you for that, Sister Mayanah. So far we made our way. We moseyed down through, and then we got to a space, and this is kind of how the manual reads. It gives you a little common sense, and then it slips some in there, and then it go. So this is kind of how it reads. And as you said, I'm wondering, as we're having this conversation and we're talking about people who has an aversion to forceful um, manipulation of the will. Uh, we are very sensitive in this area especially coming out of and still within a system that has oppressed man, woman, and child. And so, you know, to say things like this as a like we're saying, if the woman is grown to respect her father, which is her father, when she's a child, and her mother, and they have grown this person, like you said in the beginning of this correspondence, that they should have this and this. That means by the time that she comes into this space, she knows what respect looks like. And so at which point would you have to demand it, or would you just have to exemplify what is respectable? And then it will be reciprocated, because unlike a child who you have to train to say, don't do this and don't do that, she would already have been brought up, so to say. And so, you know, I just find it interesting that one side it says don't get her if she's not, but if she's not, then this is how she's saying to go about her. But I'm gonna continue for the sake of time. E says, the moment you let a woman slap your face figuratively, and by the way, I was grown, my mother always said don't hit people. So right. I think it's interesting that she's using this language, like you're the type of woman who would even think about that. Like, I wasn't allowed to, like, you know how you saw on TV and a woman like, oh my goodness, and slap the man in the face. My mom is always like, yo, don't hit if you don't want to be hit. And so slapping men in the face is not something I grew up with. I really can't relate to that whole face slapping thing. But it says the moment you let a woman slap your face figuratively or otherwise, it's all downhill from there. Once a woman becomes dominant over her man, she will feel and be out of control without her man as a leader to give her boundaries. And I would have to agree with this part as it relates to anyone. If you don't set boundaries, and you don't have to forcibly set the boundaries, but if you don't set the boundaries and you don't let people know, you know, what is too far and whatever the case may be, then yes, it will be hard to get things back in a way where it's going to be that mutual respect that you're looking for. What are your thoughts on this?
Mine?
Let me see if Sister Shelly on is there. Sister
Shelly, I'm still here.
What you talking about boxing people in the face, Sister Shelly? You just not like, you just boxing. Like, oh yeah, I said just one side.
Well, you know, boxing is the thing. Boxing somebody in their face is always a sign when you really want to demean that person or show that person how much contempt or disrespect you feel for them. You box them in their face. So I do agree with that slapping in the face, even playing. It's a sign that you really do not have respect for that person. Just like spitting. Like back in the day when people say if you spitting somebody's face, that was another sign. I think the Europeans, they used to take off their glove and they used to box each other in the face with the glove. So you have that. But this is definitely very reminiscent of domestic violence situation and how the man used to respond. You know, I have to tame her. I have to, I have to tame her. She has to understand, she has to stay in her place. A woman has to be a woman. And I have to show her how to do this and show her how to do that. So he beats her and beats her and beats her and beats her to a pulp all the time, and then turn around and say, you make me do it. You know, so this whole thing is giving you that same type of vibe, definitely. But I do agree that you shouldn't put your hand on anybody. We were taught that too. You know, you shouldn't put your hand on any man. You shouldn't slap any man. You shouldn't disrespect, you know, anybody unless they have disrespect.
Unless they touch you.
Yes.
Unless they're troubling, and then it's on. I mean, I'm sorry, that's Caribbean in us. They be like, don't hit. But if that's the, you know, because that's the thing. It goes both ways. I think Sister Shelly just brought it up. This thing goes both ways. If the boundaries for both men and women are not established, this is when domestic violence comes in. For the same reason that she's going to attempt to exert some physical force on you is the same reason he attempts to exert physical force on you, is to control. And as Sister Mayanah just spoke about, as it relates to a willingness, as it relates to a willingness to submit, as opposed to a forced submission. I'm forcing you under my will. I'm forcing you. No, I see that you know what you're doing, and I am going to follow you, which is totally different. It's kind of like how the Most High, he doesn't force us to love or worship or do anything. It says you do it, this is what happened. If you don't do it, this is what's going to happen. And then ultimately you have the choice. Now, if you choose the bad choice, then it won't be that well for you. But the point of the matter is you still have a choice to choose. And so I'm gonna go to F. It says women by nature look for a leader. Okay, Mayanah touched on that a little bit. I'm gonna go to G. A man's guidance and boundaries for his women are a form of protection and masculine love. As long as he respects and values his woman as his equal, a man should have no problem leading his woman. I'm gonna just go ahead to Mayanah. I know she probably have something. It's like at this point it says value her as your equal.
I don't. Yeah, she's so riddled with dichotomies. I don't. So do you go and force your will on someone you consider your equal, or do you reason with someone that you consider your equal and you come to terms? I mean, if you come equal means there's some kind of mutuality involved. And if you really consider her your equal, then, wouldn't you approach her in such a way that, first of all, how does Torah tell us to our men to deal with the women? When the man first gets married, according to the book of Deuteronomy, what he does is he stays at home and makes her comfortable. He spends a year. He doesn't allow for work or war. These are the two ways for a man to make money, and he doesn't go engage in either one, but instead spends a full year at home to make his wife happy, to get on terms with her, because she's left her family, she's left her her network, and now he has to build bonds of trust with this woman. So he spends a year doing that. It takes 5 minutes to slap some sense into her, but the Most High says take a year with her. Spend some time with her, build with her, get her to trust you, because we're always talking about, specifically with melanated women, that they don't have this sense of softness that everyone is looking for, and that she is not necessarily vulnerable, fresh out the package. So build with her. If you have decided to invest in this woman and build these bonds of trust and give her this sense of safety so that she can feel vulnerable to you and she will yield to you. And that is what we see in Torah. We see the woman yielding. We don't see the Hebrew woman being snatched up and beaten into submission. Even figuratively. Again, if I'm mistaken about I'm going to look to see if I'm mistaken. If I'm mistaken about the meme saying that he has permission to hit her, I will in the comments post that retraction. But I do believe that that was there. If not, but the point of even figuratively and being able to impose forcefully your will, it speaks against this idea of equality and the implication of mutuality.
Right. And for those who just joined us, we are going over chapter 2 at this point of the book and looking at some of the objections. People say, well, what's some of the problems you have? There's a bit of there's a dichotomy that exists. On one side, it's saying this, and then the other side, it's saying that, and then there's no gray area or no bridge. So when you say something like demand, you leave it to the imagination of the reader what that means, what that looks like, how does that relate? So usually when you hear someone say, I demand you, it sounds like something forceful. And so for those who are wondering, well, she didn't say forceful, when you look up the word demand, or when you hear it, it usually associated with some kind of force. And so this is where you see the conversation kind of leading to, if you're wondering. And we're going to go on to chapter, what is this? I don't know if it's chapter, what is this, paragraph 3 or portion 3, but I'm going to go over some of these titles and then I'm going to go on because it's a lot. But always lead your family. You are the man. Yes, women are looking for the man to lead. Again, because of the situation, the circumstances, men have come out of that space. Many women are going into this space to be able to compensate, to be able to survive. It's called survival mechanism. And again, many people are pointing the fingers like, oh, you out of space. Okay, and if no one, and the reality is, because he is the protection, because he is the head, and you don't have that, you still have to eat. You still have to maintain. And so one of her arguments, especially on social media, is that she takes on a masculine field. She loses her femininity. Granted, this is what I in all the studying that I'm studying on this this space right here, I cannot deny that she has lost a level of her femininity. But again, as Sister Mayanah said at the top of the hour, what I did not see and what we did not see brought forth is the why, you know, and the how, and the fact that what you are now presenting back to the same woman, the same family structure, the same man that lost their role spaces without examining the why, you're kind of giving them a fairy tale to try to go chase. This is not a carrot that they're going to try to chase and to attain without actually dealing with what happened and how to actually build your way back from there. It's like just slapping a facade on a building and being like, it's all good. And so always lead your family. 4, never ignore your wife or children. And again, these absolutes of never ignore your wife or children. I'm a scenario person. So your wife and your children, you've spoken to them, you lead, you know, they can't laugh at you, they can't belittle you, you know, they have to respect your masculinity and you have to demand of them, right? And so now they are not listening. Say they're not listening, or maybe it is that they are they're going in a direction you don't want them to go into. Or maybe they're telling you things that you don't want to hear and they're not listening to tell you to stop. At that point, do you ignore them? Do you engage them? Do you demand of them? Do you use brute force on them? Because at some point, even children, if there's a point where if they're throwing temper tantrums and carrying on, the more you feed into that is the more they do it. Right. So when you say to never ignore, if your wife is being like Samson's you know, the strange woman that he wanted to marry, and she's bugging him, should Samson have fed into her or should he have ignored her? These are questions, because you're giving us an absolute, never ever do this thing. But what is the situation? Because there are situations that cause for you allowing that person to get themselves together. Because, you know, contrary to popular belief, we feel like we can control people, but the truth of the matter is you can only control them by some external mechanism. For them to concede and for them to be able to want to listen to you and yield to you, that's something that they can only do internally. You can't make them do that. And so, you know, with that one, I personally, you know, when she gets into the nevers, there's scenarios that I don't necessarily agree with that. If anybody would like to say, well, I want to say that one thing I do say, focus, she says, always focus on the eyes and words of each of your family members when they are attempting to speak with you. And I could see that you want to make a connection. But here's the thing. If you're in the kitchen and you're cooking, which you're supposed to be doing, and the child comes and speaks to you and they want your ear, but you're occupied, you can still hear them while you're working. But if you stop every minute and you have 2, 3, 4, 5 children talking to you, I'm going to wonder if you ever get anything done. So at this point, I don't see any room for multitasking. Sister, what are your thoughts?
Definitely not. There's no room for multitasking. And I do agree with you with the absolutes and this kind of like, you just leave it open for the person to determine what is suffice or when they're supposed to start or stop. So definitely not. There's no real room. It's very rigid in a sense. And I like what you said about controlling people externally. That never really lasts. Because once that thing which you had them, like how we was in slavery, or let's not even go that far. If you punish a child and you say, I'm going to whip you, I'm going to beat you, you understand? Once that thing is no longer present, or that person which is going to put that pressure on them is no longer present, you run a risk of having that behavior come back and replicate, and there's no control of that person. It's better if the control comes from internal. This is why we do a lot of explanation. This is why we take time and show them what is the reason that they shouldn't do this, or what is the best thing to do, so that they can exercise that when you're not there, when that control, that being or whatever that is that was stopping them is not there, they would now have control over themselves. So those are the things. She's just very gray, very kind of like, just do this, do that. And, not really explaining when are you supposed to start or stop, or what is the, what is the parameters here? It's that's the way I see it.
Agreed, sister Mayanah. And again, for those who've just joined us, thank you for sticking with us. We probably only going to get through 2 today, but I like going slow and really just fleshing it out, unpacking these ideas, because you do have people who are lost. You have people who want to do better. You have people who weren't taught and they're hungry. And so when you give them something like this, it's like giving a child a recipe. My daughter likes to cook, and I'm gonna come to Sister Mayanah. I just give her the recipe, but all of the little things that come along with cooking that may not be written down, that you need somebody to convey to you. What to listen for. What's that sound, mommy? Okay, don't put the water on the thing in the pot. It's gonna make the oil pop. Okay, they don't always tell you that in the recipe. They say, hey, saute this thing, and next thing you know. So these are the things that you only know once you get into it and you begin to do it and you have real life experience. And you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't, I have 4 children. I know for a fact that every time a child speaks, you cannot stop everything that you're doing. You may be in the middle of something, but baby, go ahead and talk. I hear you. And so this thought that, you can just wave your magic wand and then everything stops midstream so that I have to look at you. And then there are times when they do sit down or where we are having conversation and I say to them, look at me in my eyes and we're connecting. Is that something that you're driving your child to a game? Can you look at hopefully you're not looking at the child in the eye when they're talking to you, when you're in the car taking them to soccer practice. Right. Hopefully you're looking at the road. So again, when you apply some common sense to some of these spaces, it becomes problematic. I do agree with learning the details of your wife's family. Learn the hopes of your wife and your children, their daily events. Be connected is what she's saying basically in B. Be connected as a father, as a husband. Don't just be consumed with what you want and what you want to do. And everybody here is here to serve you, listen to you and get respect. And then there's no reciprocity. So that I could definitely vibe with. Sister Mayanah?
I think that the problem with this is that it's very clinical. It's very clinical. It's very antiseptic. She's reduced everything to bullet points, and the humanity is missing. It's just like he's walking through the house with a checklist. Okay, so, honey, what do you dream about? Okay, got it. Check. Oh, wow. And that's not learning the detail, because there's actually a point where she says, even if you're not interested, just listen. So she's not telling him to be invested. She's just saying you should know about it. Not that you should care or do anything towards helping her realize it. These are all very, it's like I said, it's very clinical. There's no humanity in it. There's no room to connect here. And all of these things are opportunities to connect. But that's not being flushed out. Like you said, the nuances are all missing. It's like I said, it's reduced to bullet points, and it's supposed to, but it's not. It's a checklist,
right? And like and it's not even. It really is bullet points. That's why I'm looking like, is this the chapter or the verse? Because it's really literally number 3 ABC, 4 ABC. You understand? Yeah. I'm actually reading this Man of Steel and Velvet book that was written like 1972, published in 1972. And he goes into stories, anecdotes, illustrations, something that kind of really fleshes out for you, scenarios. When I say X, Y, and Z, scenarios for you, which makes it come alive, and so that you can see that even if she was able to do this, then you see something such as never, you would have to kind of define ignoring and go further into that, because again, someone will pick this up and say your wife comes to you in the middle of you fixing something, you got a hot blowtorch in your hand, you know what I'm saying, and never ignore your wife. Okay, click, and then all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying. So where is the room for, you know what I mean? Where's the room? Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, somebody has something to say?
I was going to say, a good thing. Is that me?
You breaking up, sis.
Yeah, I think so.
You breaking up.
Do better at all?
Talk again.
You know, I'm going to see if I can do it through the headphones. Hold on. Maybe if I can. Hold, just give me 1 second.
All right, we're gonna wait for Sister Mayanah while she comes back with that thought. I'm gonna read this last.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah, go ahead now.
Okay. What I wanted to say that I think kind of sets off. That sounds really loud. What sets off kind of bells for me is that in number A, like in letter A, she says always focus on the eyes. Okay. The reason why that sets off an alarm for me is that in the beginning of the introduction or somewhere in her first thoughts, she tells us the people that she has used in her sample, right? There are people from different regions. I know for a fact that in Asian cultures, you're not supposed to look somebody directly into the eyes. It's uncomfortable and it's a sign of disrespect. So there's no way that she interviewed 1,000 people and they all told her that it's great to focus on the eyes. Like, you don't do that in certain cultures. In certain cultures, that's not acceptable to look directly into the eyes. I'm just always very troubled by the universals that she is using after asserting that she has a mixed and diverse population that she has spoken to. I've already found it very problematic that she interviewed 1,000 people and 1,000 people had the same response. After all the surveys that I have done and projects that I've been a part of, I've never had a sample where everybody had the same exact thought. That's not, I don't think, it would mean that somehow the sample was tampered. You can't have 100% result. Have you ever, I mean, even if you haven't participated in result, have you ever seen a statistic where it came back 100% of people did anything ever? She has no deviation. Everything is too uniform. Everything is exactly the same. Everybody has the same exact thought all over the world across 16 different cultures and 16 different countries and a variety of cultures. This is why it's not okay to reduce things to bullet points in this way, because now her demographic is here for the most part, I believe, in the States. This is what she panders to, because all of her promotions are in English. So I'm using that as my who her target demographic is. And since I don't see any in Chinese or Japanese, this is my what I have deduced from the evidence. And so maybe that's why everything seems so westernized, but she's also criticizing Western civil. I find her very paradoxical.
All right, that's the voice of Sister Mayanah.
So focus on the eyes and the words of your family members when they are attempting to speak with you. And then what?
Again,
after you stared me down while I was talking.
I mean, for some,
then what?
Again, as you're saying, the beginning of the book, the intro of the book spoke about her taking this sample from, for those who don't know, from 1,000 people across, Europe, Africa, North Africa, South America, things of this nature, America. And so the concern that Sister Mayanah is bringing up is that how did you get these bullet points from such a vast varying cultures? This is where it comes into different people, because and as you said, in certain spaces people don't look into people's eyes. So this is where it comes into this is what she's telling the man to do, to acknowledge the other individual, looking into someone's eyes. And again, not to say that all cultures, because they do it or they don't do it, makes it right or wrong, but looking into somebody's eyes is a different level of acknowledgement. And so I personally was just taking it from, and I definitely see where you're coming from as it relates to, you know, how is it that all the cultures say, look into my eyes? You know, that's real wild right there. And I was just taking it even just from a more practical everyday. How is this possible when, you know, when we get later on in the schedule, that the schedule is so busy that how do you have time to have a Brady Bunch moment every minute of the time the child comes? I would have like, you know, Dad, and he'd be like, yes. You know, how do you have that time when, as we're gonna read on right now, you got a lot of stuff going on.
I'm in the kitchen. I gotta run to the living room so I can look you in your eye while you're talking to me.
You know, you're like, what you saying, man? You know. So it says, remind them daily that you didn't forget because you're their husband or father. So make them know that you're there and you're accessible. I understand that because the children have a book called Daddy Aunt You Never Listen. And it's a little children's book, but it's really cute as it relates to the children always trying to reach the father. And the father's like, I'm busy, ask your mother. I'm busy, ask your mother. I'm busy, ask your mother. Until the end of the day, he realized that mom broke down. And he was like, yo, what's good with your moms? It was like, because you don't listen. You know what I'm saying? And so I definitely understand. He's like, I got to read the paper. Not now. I got to drink my coffee. Not now. I got to go to work. Because dad wants to tune out. And so we have to be honest that a lot of times men, because they're dealing with the cold, cruel world, when they come home, your talking is an agitation. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to see them children. How you doing? Nice. Woo-hoo, yeah, lovely. And then they're off to go in their man bat cave or do whatever it is they do. So what she's saying here is you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to check out. So I could definitely understand that. Not sure that, like I said, they could do the whole look into my eyes every time, but hey.
Right. That's how we said there's merit to what she is saying, but it gets problematic. She tries to reduce its bullets in this way and tries to wrap it in an accreditation that I mean, like I said, you know, like you're saying, having the husband be engaged and involved and present, the idea of the man being present is important for the family dynamic. So I completely applaud that effort.
Right.
But it's like I said, for me, a lot of what she does seems very clinical.
Right.
It's very antiseptic.
All right. Let's see what else we got here. We're going to come to Sister Shelly on in a second. We're going to try to skip our way through this. As ask for details when your family talks about anything. Again, she's asking the man to be present. Treat and speak to your wife and children how you want others to. I think this is important as it relates to, she goes into saying that other people are watching how you refer to your wife, your children, whether you yell at them, whether you curse at them. And if you're going to feel offended that someone else is speaking to them in a demeaning or derogatory way, then you should be aware when you're doing it. And so I think that, again, these things right here, as it relates to the man having a self-awareness, is important. But I'm wondering how that works in when he's demanding the respect, because I still don't know in her estimation what the demanding looks like or sounds like, because if others hear you demanding the respect, then wouldn't they then mimic you demanding that respect also from your wife and children? Maybe I'm reaching on that one. I don't know. Am I doing Pilates on that one? Let me know. Sister Shelly, are you there?
No, you are definitely on point. I just have that same that same thought. Like, when is he supposed to be thinking of this? When he's demanding them, or when he's thinking that, you know, the wife and the children is not capable of discerning who deserve respect, you know? So, you know, he's gonna, if you think that your wife and your children is not capable of discerning who needs to get respect, you're going to speak to them in a certain manner. It's going to be a belittling them somehow, the way it's going to be presented. So now you gotta, okay, he has to be stern, not take anything from his wife, not taking this, not taking that, kind of stand firm in his masculinity and be stern with her. Watch what you're saying, because then you want other people to treat her the way you're treating her, but not really treating her that way. You want people to treat her better than how you treat her, because that's what she's really saying. is that you
Right.
really want people to treat her better than you're treating her, because according to her guidelines, you're not treating her that great. You're not really being that great to her in most cases. But yet still you want people to treat her better than you're treating her. You know?
I get the thought here, where she's actually saying, consciously asking for details of their stories makes them feel like you understand them. It's very surface here. It's like you don't necessarily have to understand them, but make them feel like you do. Because this is how women and children prefer to communicate with each other. So in a way, she's responding to what we're saying, because we're saying there's no detail here. There's no fleshing anything out. And she's saying, yeah, that's just how women and children think. Women and children need details. And so since from her perspective, she's not talking to the women or the children now. She's talking to the men. So the men just need bullet points. So she's giving them that. And I almost want to say that I respect that she's switching the voice for who she's dealing with. Except I know that as the chapter continues, or as the volume continues,
All right.
details in the world. So she's going to get real detailed where she starts instructing them on how to be intimate with the women. She just, when it comes to being conversation, be surface, just give her enough to get by, just give her something to shut her up. But then she gets very detailed or when she wants to talk about how to extract sexual favors from the woman and how to receive sexual favors from the woman. Suddenly she has, the big book of vocabulary and the bullets get much bigger.
Oh, so we're going to see what Mayanah's giving a spoiler alert here. We're going to see what Mayanah's talking about. We're going to try to mosey on through the consciousness is a man's responsibility as his family leader. She has that, you need truth to be realistically. You need truth to realistically be in the best position to care for and protect your family. So, you need to be seeking, really, for us, you need to be seeking the creator. And both parties, the way this is presented for me, and I know we've said it, is that the weight, although it's being said that it's being evenly distributed, both parties need to be truth seekers. And both parties play a role. Both parties need to be in tune. Because if you see a lot of people with this issue, if he's a truth seeker and she is not, and she's just doing it for him, right? Then it's not really genuine, and there isn't this connection as it relates to their spirituality, because she's doing it more for a carnal level, and he's trying to help let's pray together, let's work together. And then it happens the other way around as well. He's in it just for her physically, or whatever the case may be, just for the relationship, and they're not in spiritual growth together. And so this is where this balance, the creator says he made an Isaiah, a helpmate in front of him, and she's supposed to balance him, and they need to be balancing each other, in every way. And so, as Mayanah says, we'll continue on. Collect wisdom, she says, from anywhere you can. Collect wisdom to share with your family. She says, and this is an idea, Solomon did it. This is why we read it today, the book of Proverbs. Create your own book of wisdom to pass to your children and your grandchildren. That's the whole book of Proverbs. All throughout the book, he says, my son, my children, listen to my words, take heed. He did this. Now, where is the wisdom coming from? Is it vetted? All of that stuff is another story. But this is, I guess, just little bullet point ideas. The type of wisdom which you have to offer is not the true focus, but simply that you care enough to lead and teach matters. Let me rewind. The type of wisdom which you have to offer is not the true focus, but simply that you care enough to lead and teach matters which you believe are valuable to living well. I think you just spoke to this, Mayanah. So about the value, the quality of what you're collecting. She says, from everywhere. But then she says the type of wisdom don't really matter. Just that you're trying to do this, that is what really matters. And why would you care?
What this show? This is pretty consistent. It speaks to her general modus operandi. This is her MO. It's keeping up appearances. That's all it is.
Sister Shelley, I see you shaking your head there in the back.
Yes, it is keeping up appearances. It is very much that. I read that part and I was like, what? It doesn't matter. The wisdom doesn't matter. Just leave a book with something in it.
Wow. It's not about the quality of the information. Again, this is what we're seeing. Again, as we said, this is because we're all in a learning journey. We all start from somewhere. We all, you know, especially in this space, I want to say we all, a good amount of us have come to a place where we want to share what it is that we know. And as long as we're willing to grow in that and accept the wrongs, like Sister Mayanah just said, she said something that she's like, you know what, if I said it and it's not correct, I'll retract that. You know what I'm saying? If we're willing to say, you know what, I said X, Y, and Z, and that wasn't correct. Somebody come and check me on my video, you know what, I said the wrong word, or I gave you the wrong reference, or whatever the case may be, and it shows a level of humility. So as it relates to the Sister Roe Cutno, I was looking at your book. If this word gets back to you, understand it's not about hatred. It's not about hateration. It's not about being angry, whatever the case may be. It's about just as anything, any food, anything that goes out in the community intellectually, that's fit for consumption, especially in the area as it relates to the women returning back to their space. It needs to be, you know, evaluated. And so because this is what this is, something for the men and the women to consume and hopefully apply within their lives, you know, we need to evaluate it, and to who he have ears, let them hear. So I'm gonna keep going. Start trust funds. Who could argue with that? Whatever, large or small, just, you know, think about your children and show that you're putting forth some effort to provide for that. That's a biblical proverb. You know, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And so you're thinking about the next generation, something to pay it forward that can help those who are going to come behind you to be able to stand up higher and taller on your shoulders. So I can't fight against that. Rescue your wife and children. This is one, when I read it to my brother, he said, huh? So I'm going to read this one. Rescue your wife and children as often as possible. Rescue your wife and children often, even for things they don't need. And then she gives a scenario about the wife. She calls you over the phone. She has the baby. She's at the zoo. The baby is too heavy. You're supposed to show up at the zoo to help carry the baby. Or if the child is feeling down or upset at school, you're supposed to show up at the school as the husband who is supposed to be out getting money because the wife is at home. And here goes the practicality. The wife is at home. Later on, she's going to appropriate his time for him. Okay, she's going to tell him what amount of time he should spend where. And so I'm not sure when he would have time to go to the zoo and hold the baby, or when he would have time to go to the child's school and sit down with the child and comfort the child, when in actuality he's supposed to be working. She goes on to say, indeed, if anyone is sick, that he's supposed to stay up all night rubbing their back. And then she says, your wife will need her rest as her duties need focus during the day. It's the man's duties to guard her and the health and the safety of his children during the night hours. So he's the night watch. She's the day watch. And understandable, she's been working all day. He's been working all day. But she's saying, if the child is sick during the night, you're supposed to stay up. You're supposed to rescue them at all times possible. If your wife left a wallet, you go back and get it. Real men don't let their family members worry, feel bad, have stress, or do anything which they can do to protect them. Your thoughts?
Definitely. I think that real men, you know, do play an active role, but I would like to ask the sister, you know, if he's working all day and then when he comes home at night, he's staying up with the baby, what happened the next day? Is that not part of putting that stress that she talked about before? You know, avoiding putting stress on him because he's going out there to make the money to support the family. So if he's staying up all night with the baby, is he able to go back to work the next day? You know, I do understand having to kind of take some of the responsibility from your wife and relieving her of that burden. But it's like you're saying one thing and then you turn around and you're saying something else. How is this supposed to be practically applied?
Sister Mayanah? Maybe Sister Mayanah stepped away. Sister Mayanah, are you there?
Yes, I was being respectful and muted my mic. I totally agree with her. I'm trying to figure out how the husband who may potentially be working downtown is going to Superman down school to comfort the child who's having a bad day at class and keep his job. And I'm also, I mean, and again, rescue your wife and children often, even for things they don't need. That's vanity. Am I wrong? That's vanity. That goes back to the idea of you're just doing it for appearance's sake. I don't need rescuing. You're just gonna swoop in and Superman. I didn't even put out the bad signal. Here you are. For what? What do you? What, that's you know what that is. I feel like that's the projection of a narcissistic personality. You know, the person that needs to be seen, the person that needs to be, you know, reassured, reaffirmed constantly. Because if he's doing this rescuing, even when no rescuing is necessary, then for whom is this action being done? If it's not for me, because I don't need it, and then you're just doing it to be able to say that you perform this, that you can do it, you have your checklist that we talked about before, and you can check rescue off the list. This is not a marriage. This is a machine.
Okay.
This is having a relationship on a conveyor belt.
Oh boy, Sister Mayanah. Alrighty then. For those who have joined us, again, men, if you're out there, on the first episode we had Brother Amatia, and then you know, we missed Brother Amatia. So if you could come back, Brother Amatia, or any men, melanated men out there who would like to lend your voice to this conversation. I know we have some brothers in the comment box, and so if you out there and you would like to lend your voice to this conversation respectably, because like I said, I did read it and I tried to get him on to my brother, and the question was like, wow, well, when, and this was his question as a man, well, when am I supposed to do all of this? Like, when does this, and then we actually later on, we actually had to pull out a calculator to see how many hours in the day. And truthfully, when we put in all of what she prescribed, he was negative 21 hours. And I'm not exaggerating. So when we get a little bit further along, maybe in another episode, we're going to put in the realistic nature of what she's prescribing and see if you come out minus hours. Like, I don't know how you get minus hours in a week, but that's how much hours you're going to need. Is 168 hours in a week. He's going to need at least 188 hours for that week to do all that is recommended for him to do. So I'm going to continue. Always know exactly where everyone is located. Know the details and plans. Know the whereabouts of your family. Basically, know what's going on. You know where your children are. And again, that's good parenting. To know where your children are. Make sure that your family always eats healthy and on time. Your family is your person. But I thought this was the woman's domain. Like, the man builds the exterior of the house, the woman builds the interior of the house. So he's kind of like in her domain now, in her space, because later on she calls her, what is that? A domestic goddess or something of that nature. And so she's supposed to reign in this space, but she's saying she's putting that responsibility of what goes on in the upkeep of the interior on the man. And so she says, make sure your family eats healthy and on time. But in the beginning of this one, she says that the wife should know what is healthy, how to prepare. So if you have a good woman who knows this, then she would be the one making sure that this happens. It says here, she says, as meals demonstrate your value on them, meaning your family meals should be presented at the table with proper plates, flatware, forks, spoons, and knives, and real breakable glasses. Valuable people don't eat or drink from plastic at home. And I know this kind of rubs people the wrong way. I do say eat at the table, because even in this culture of so fast, we lose a lot of the essence of just sitting down together, eating, you know, collectively. And so I could definitely see eating at the table. There is also talk of, you know, not that's eating in plastic and thing of that nature, but she goes even further to say valuable people don't eat or drink from plastic at home. And so by inference, you are not valuable if you do. Is that what you received? It kind of reminds me of Juanita's Bynum's $5,000 big pen. I don't know if everybody ever saw that.
Oh yes.
Big pen situation of $5,000. So what are your thoughts on this?
I
Family
think
together.
for me, B gives you another inkling into the disconnect culturally, because they're not all cultures do not consider using flatware dining experiences, specifically forks and spoons and knives. You know, especially if she was in Africa somewhere. You know, you and I know a bit about, you more than I actually know quite a bit about African cultures, the various African cultures.
Okay.
And some of them, you know, using your hands is part of the communal eating. And in Asia too, there's a communal type of eating that, you know, and they don't use with any type of regularity knives and forks. We have to, I don't even, I have chopsticks. They're metal, but they're chopsticks.
Right.
You know, so I mean, this is not, like you said, we're not going to tear it apart for everything, because there's an essence here that is extremely valuable. Her saying that you should eat together as a family, that you should put some thought into your meal, because that is true. You know, if you put thought into the food, the family can reflect on that. If your husband comes home from work and you give him a bowl of cereal, okay, you didn't put any thought in that. You know, he doesn't. There's nothing for that. But he comes home and you have something warm in front of him, that he knows that you thought about him, that you cooked, that there was effort on your behalf. You know, and so I can respect and appreciate what she's saying here by saying put some effort into your family and your family time. And mealtime is one of the times that, you know, you can pretty much guarantee somebody's going to show up at the table, right? You know, they might not show up for Monopoly, but they're going to show up for meatloaf or whatever you cook. They're going to show up to eat because everybody's going to get hungry. So taking full advantage of that family moment and putting your effort and presentation into that moment to the best of your ability, I can completely appreciate that sentiment. But I think that there's something a little kind of snide in saying valuable people don't do this and valuable people don't do that. It takes no consideration for the means of the people, because she said on the one hand that the wife should understand and respect the means of the husband, and then on the other hand she has these standards that have to be met, these timetables that have to be met, and there's just kind of this disconnect from the from practicality.
And that's
Circumstances are going to be the same. I'm sorry,
and
sister.
no, that I would agree with you in that. Again, what she's saying has value, but you brought the point up earlier as it relates to this cross-cultural analysis, and to come back to say knives, forks, and porcelain, that's not cross-cultural. Like you said, I lived in Ethiopia. I love Ethiopian food. You know what etiquette is? Yes, there's family, there's a big round plate and the food is distributed, and the etiquette, you don't have forks and knives. Someone comes around with a basin and you wash your hands right there, and then you go in and you eat. West Africa, a lot, they do the same thing. They eat with their hands. They take, if you come from the Caribbean, big up to those who love make roti, you eat roti with your hand. Yes, in India, they take a piece of the bread and so this thought of, you're not real. This is, again, this is this Eurocentric tango waltz mentality that this is decor. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
This is arrival. And like you said, from the very beginning of the book, the opening chapter of the book, it has been continuous that this is the standard by which I am holding you.
Right.
And that is what we brought into question as it relates to the dance. And it continues even to this space, because I can tell you the spread is beautiful, but you are now less than, you're not less valuable because you're not eating
Right.
knives and forks. Europeans came and said that is brutish. Even though you have
Right.
spoons, you have wooden bowls. You know, some people,
Right.
if they'll serve you the salad out of a beautiful carved out wooden bowl, and that's what you eat the salad of, because it's not portable and breakable. It means that somebody carved that with their own hands. And so I think it doesn't account for other cultures, although it said it took a sample from all these cultures. It doesn't account for them in these bullet points. Sister, are you there? Let us know your thoughts.
Yes, I'm here. It does not account. I mean, it really does not. But you really got to understand where she's taking all of these points from. This whole points that she's bringing up and she's picking out of the European ways is from the Victorian times when that's what the women they do. They set up, they have the china. It was all about status and show, and you know, you had to have the best china with the finest intricate designs on them, and you served tea and you did it in this way, and you had your corset and you had a certain manner. You know what I'm saying? This is for people. The thing about it is, for you to apply these standards, and some of them, yes, we can see where they work. But for some of them, it's like you're trying to get people, Black women, who have so much. We have so much already. We have a lot of baggage already. Okay, Emunah, you know, from your angry Black woman, you know, syndrome revisited, that we have all of these issues within our community. Okay, we are barely now trying to dig ourselves out of all of the crap that we had to come through. We're trying to get to a point where we're just breathing, and that's even difficult. So now you're applying these standards from the same people that have put us in this situation, and you're expecting women, our women, us to follow these standards, and our men to follow these standards. You know, we have so much things that we have to get out of. There's so much that we are already suffering from. You know, we need two families. We do. Unfortunately, a lot of our families cannot afford to have just the man working. You know, the women have to work too. They have to help provide, you know, and it's.
So what do you say? I'm curious, because you know, I talk to Emunah all the time. So I'm curious, how would you answer her saying that it isn't feminine of you to go out and work, that somehow this detracts from your femininity, and it is only your westernized mind that makes you feel like you need to go out and participate in the economy, in the world economy, instead of staying at home and just living off of whatever your husband can bring home to you?
What would I say in this day and time, when I know that the struggle that our men are going through just to bring food to the table, that we do need both. We do need. I'm not against staying at home, because being at home and taking care of the taking care of children and the house and all that, that's a great duty also. But if there is a way that we need to come together to survive. Listen, I really do not so much care about people's definition of what is feminine, what is not. You understand? That's not my main concern, especially in our communities where we are being shot, we're being killed, we have so many other issues going on. You know, some of the definition that I've read of femininity and masculinity, come on. It doesn't apply to everybody. It doesn't apply to every situation. It's a balance in every situation. You may have a man that is very quiet, that prefers to be at home, that can do well with the children, even though ideally, you know, you could say he's supposed to go out and he can get a job, but he may do better at home. He may be a better gardener than I am. You know, he may be, you know, there's so many different things that he could have done better. So if we can work system where one is at home regardless of who it is and one is out, and we can still maintain that relationship and we can balance each other out, I think that's what's more important in this time, because we have so many things already against us. We have so many things that we're battling outside of the home, you know. So that's what I would say to her. It doesn't matter to me all this feminine stuff and this etiquette and you must have fine china. and you must, you know, you must carry yourself this way and that way and this way and that way. I'm not I've never been a very girly girl. I'm now stepping into my girly girldom. But my husband is a very masculine, very stern. He doesn't speak very much. But when he says something, he knows what he wants. He says it, that's what it is. I'm not very soft spoken, but it works for me. It works for us. Our relationship works. There's no bringing down of his masculinity. There's no making me feel like I'm not feminine. It works. We work with each other and we balance each other out well.
That's the voice of you brought up some points that, you know, have been bringing up, and I'm glad you came and echoed some of those sentiments that, and I keep saying it, we are at, have been, and continue to be at a level of war. First, it was physical, and economic, social, political, spiritual. Do you understand? Yeah. And so that puts someone in a survival mode. And one of the issues that I saw when it came across, I'm like, you're telling people to get in a space of complacency when they're actually behind enemy lines. Because when he steps outside that door, as Sister Shelly-Ann just brought up, he's not in a world that he built. He's not in a space where he rules. It's not his government. It's not his structure. He has no sovereignty. And so he has the addition of taking care of his family. On top of that, he is at, quote, the bottom. And so when you look at that as it relates to the culture that you're bringing this from, the culture was one who was on the top. They were the one who was extracting the labor for free and exploiting this labor and living in this level of affluence and living off the labors of those who they were suppressing. And so, yes, you had a lot of free time. Like you said, you know what I like to watch is when they go to these plantation houses. You could check it out on YouTube. I know, wait a minute. You could check it out on YouTube. One sister sent me one, but I usually in the habit of watching people go on these tours. What I find very, I don't know, it's unnerving. When the tour guide begins to speak, little to no mention is made of the slaves. Everything that they speak about is, oh, this is original oak wood, and this is hand-painted china, each one of its own. They ooze over all of this decadence, all of this excess. They found pride in saying this was made in here. Just go watch one. And I'm like, and they'll mention the slaves as a note. Oh, yes, and the slaves lived out here. So the right. that they concentrated on was material possessions. So understand that, and we read Latita here on the Lev Project. This is why the Lev Project is really kicking in. Latita got on my last nerve because I thought she was just over the top. She decided to write a narrative like 30 plus years after the Civil War, and she misremembered a whole lot of stuff. But one thing she did do in the book, if I could call it that, in her memoirs, right, was that she recalled all of the different plantations that she visited and why she loved visiting. It was like your plantation was a hotel, and people could pop up whenever they want, and your staff had to always be ready to serve. They could come for a night or they could come for a month, and they didn't have to warn you. And when they came, it was like an information highway. They passed because they didn't have telephones. So you had to physically go to people's locations. And not only would they carry news, they would talk about who had the best drapes, who had the best curtains, who had the best food. And it came from France. And this is, so you have to understand, this was the culture.
Right.
This was the culture, and the woman, the goddess of the home, the angel of the home,
in the house, yeah.
She who had the most clout. It's like, yo, you want to go down to the Breckenwood plantation because they got the most clout down there. And so, what this woman is selling us is a culture, and I saw it when I watched Queen, which Desmond Guy's character being privy to, but not being able to participate in. So you have the melanated woman always wanting, not all, but those who were in close proximity, they wanted that because it was always flat. Like I'm making this fricasseed chicken and I can't have none. You know what I'm saying? I just strung you up in this dress and I ain't got nothing like that. So this created an envy for their lifestyle. It created a desire in their palate. So when you present it to their great-great-grandchildren, this Bessie Ann had a dish like that. I want it. Never mind, it's not even your culture. Never mind, it has nothing to do with you. And never mind that, you know, they never wanted niggas to sit at their table. But now I can teach Negroes to sit. And for those who have a issue with the word niggas, I've been reading One Too Many Slave Narratives, and that's what. So I mean, I just wanted to say that because Sister Shelly Ann just brought out one of my objections, just based on how vested I am into this history, is that epigenetically, on a deeper level, what she's appealing to is an unfulfilled desire. What do they say? A dream deferred. Yeah. It speaks about a dream deferred, and it speaks about something that you can't attain, making you sick. And so today, just to speed it up, and we might have to come, wait a minute, we might have to come back. Today, when you see when you see the melanated woman blonding her hair, you know what I'm saying? When you see her bleaching her skin, when you see her doing all of these things just to be like Missy Ann, just to be like Betty. Remember, she was combing her hair. You understand what I'm saying? She could have been, like in the movie, her mulatto half sister, or she could have been the slave girl straight off the boat. And she's there combing her hair, but when they look at you, they say, your hair so nappy, and you so such and such. So in your mind, like what you call his character, she said, eyes are white. Why? Because don't nobody want to be black. Why? Because black is poor, black has no status, black has no standing, and so they want to associate with what the perception of power is. We have to understand that there's a lot of psychology that's going on in what is being regurgitated to us. So because it's not new, it's not a new concept, it's something that has been there, but it's now being repackaged for our community and our demographic. And again, got a lot of
I mean, we also have to factor in the fact that our men accepted a lot of that about what the beauty standards are too. When the men started to say things like, I'll just get a white girl, you know, and white girls will do this and you won't do that. And so the idea that women are responding just to the European woman, she's responding to the melanated man too. The melanated man is telling you, I'm not attracted to you, I'm attracted to this. And for their own psychological reasons that they are looking at, you know, because the white woman was a protected space. His woman wasn't a protected space because he wasn't allowed to protect her. But the white woman has always been, by design of her man, some type of kind of protected. We get the Jezebel from the fact that the European decided to over-sexualize or hypersexualize the black female body to make it seem as if she is just lascivious in by nature. And so his attraction to her is primal and savage, as opposed to the delicacy and the purity of the white woman. So he could savage the black woman, and but the white woman was too good for that. You don't do that to white women. And so white women were a sort of fiction was created around the European woman. And so the men start saying things like, that's something to attain to. If everyone is telling you that this is what is beautiful, and our men started to buy into that. You see it throughout the conversations that they're having. Even now, we still find that the conversations are white women are more attractive. To some, not to all, but to some. And so if a melanated woman hears that her skin is not as attractive as lighter skin or whiter skin, then it's not unimaginable that she's going to try to do that which would make her desirable to the men and try to aspire to what they are saying they want to see. I think that the opposite is the same is true in the opposite direction. When the men started to say, we love your natural hair. Well, there started to be more voices from the masculine side that was beautiful, women started to feel more comfortable. You start seeing women cutting off all of their hair just to grow it back natural, because there's some population of the men that are saying, we love the way you look. And in the 60s, when Black Power movement was strong, all the putting chemicals in your hair to lay your hair down, that stopped. Everybody was big with the afros because it was something that was being reflected back from the men. So I say all that just to say this. I said, yes, it's true that the women were responding to the European women that they had in their proximity that represented status and wealth, and they get their ideas about what beauty products look like or beautiful dresses look like, because these are the women that had access to it. But I think to some degree, women are also responding to what the men are saying they like and they're attracted to and they will do. I think that, like what we're reading here, even what we're reading here, is this is not a response to anything that's real. This is a response to fulfilling the man's fantasy. This is all about the fantasy of the man. She's not concerned with what's good for the woman. This is all about fulfilling some type of fantasy.
All right, now. We're gonna see Sister Mayanah. She dropping some stuff now. Hold on now, because the man is like, this is the truth. I've seen the Facebook post. They like, man, this is the gospel right here. So we gonna see. Wow, time is moving on us. We're gonna wind down a little bit. I'll just go quickly. Provide your family with proper clothing. That's respectable. Could see that. Take pride in how they look. 16, respect your wife and any mother of your children. There was one thing I wanted to read within here. Women can be highly emotional, and men brings balance to these emotions. No matter how they may behave, treat the woman or women of your children especially well. After all, these are the people who will mostly determine what type of adult your children will become. So, she's irrational, she's emotional, and, don't worry about that. She goes on to say in C, a woman's behavior has nothing to do with you at all. All caps. A woman's behavior has nothing to do with you at all. You are the leader, the man, the strong man. Enjoy the positive emotions of women, but do not get caught up in the negative emotions of women. If your woman emotions are getting out of control, sometimes the only thing that can balance her is your leadership. You should show and express your love for her, then kindly instruct her to behave in a more rational and, what happened here? Hold on one second. Level-headed way. So like, get yourself together, stop acting up, stop acting crazy. I guess that kind of thing. It says, if you are married, be sure to respect how financial situations and decisions affect your wife. She may not make the money, but she is equally important since she makes the home function in a warm way. Consult her in financial choices. So it's not totally iron fist. Again, she's going between, being the man, reinforcing that you are the masculine principle, as well as not acting as though she's your she slave, that she has a thought. But then again, if she's irrational, it's like only take the good and then leave the bad, or take the good and then govern the bad. I'm not really sure how that works, but yes, financial issues is one of the reasons why marriages break apart. And so she's saying, don't totally leave her out, include her in things that are going to affect the household. Like, don't say you go into the store and come back with a brand new car that you didn't plan for. That kind of stuff that's definitely going to cause problems. Don't say you go window shopping and then show up with a whole new bill. So I could definitely see that, and I can understand that. I'm using loving pet names. She says, use loving pet names, something that's enduring. Let's go on. Know how to slow and center your family. Meditation, silent time, regular time with your family. She says, send surprises. So woo them, be romantic. Romantic, which is roman-like, but it says, okay, this is the part here. This is the part. We are finally up to some numbers here. And so for the sake of time, hold each member of your family daily for at least 10 minutes. Holding each of your family members for 10 minutes each day physically enforces that you are there to love and protect them. This is a very strong statement of your masculine love. So this lends to what Mayanah is talking about the clinicalness. She's not only just saying hold your family, she's actually now going into setting a time that I guess I'm not sure what it's based on, but say you have 7 family members or 8, that lends off into, depends how many children you have. That's, you know, if you got 6 people in the family, then that's an hour worth of holding time. So your thoughts. I hug up my children all the time, but I'm not sure if I look at the clock while I'm doing it.
Right.
It might be like, yo, chill, you got enough hug now, get off of me. You know, I'm not sure. Sister Shelly, or how does that work? Do you like, come here, baby, 1, 2. I would just being facetious, like, you know, help me out, because I got a lot of children, they like hugs, but I'd be like, come on now, you be counting. I think more the baby counts the time than I do. What's yours?
It is so ridiculous. I mean, because as Sister Mayanah said, it's all for show. It's like a big show or like a check-off list. You're like, okay, 10 minutes is up, next. You know, check. 10 minutes up, next. Suppose you got 13 kids. What's going on during that day between the man going to work, okay, he comes home, or while he's at work and he got to run to the school, then after that he got to run to give her a wallet, then after that he has to, you know, hug everybody 10 minutes each, and then look on the eyes. Don't forget to look on the eyes. And then when you get home now, you stay up all night with the baby because the baby was sick. You know, you got to stay up all night with the baby. You know, come on. It's like, it is so.
Well, it's not done yet. It's not done yet. It gets even sweeter. Hold that thought, because this is when you actually start to put it all together. You're like, okay, this is getting really, really unrealistic. You know, so that's just the 10 minutes. Again, the variable of how many youths you have, or like they say, youths or children. But we're going to continue again with jesting. Sometimes people can't take a little bit of fun. You know, if we can't laugh at ourselves, you know, we say that. And I know some people might be like, why are they laughing? Because when you actually, you be like, wow, I said that? Like all day long, the children like, mommy, did you hear what you just said? But I'm the type of person who don't take myself that seriously. So definitely I'm not going to, what's the word? Not emasculate. I'm not going to defeminize myself by being able to laugh at myself. So the baby, that's me. So I'm a little bit sensitive to other people's abilities too, or not. All right. But yeah, that's kind of wild, depending on how many. Like, I know a sister with 8 children. So that's like 80 minutes of hugging that man has to do so far. It says, baby and kiss your wife often, as she is your very highest priority above all things or people. So she is, like, we come from a culture where the Most High is above all things. But what she's telling the man is the woman is above. She's a priority above all things or people. She says it's extremely important that you protect your wife's femininity, just as she needs to protect your masculinity. To do this, you should be sure not to expose her to profanity, violence, nastiness, or negativity. So I'm going to guess that based on this, that she's not speaking, when she said demand respect, it's not going to have profanity, violence, nastiness, or negativity. I'm going to go ahead and give her that and just, you know, say based on that we're going to disqualify that demanding looked any kind of negative way. You also should not let her do anything which is dangerous, any man's work, or work too hard outside of the home. Hopefully not at all. And she speaks of the heavy lifting. Now, you know, truthfully, heavy lifting for women becomes problematic as it relates to the womb. There is such thing as prolapsed uterus. There is such thing as, you know, taking on things, again, that are too heavy for you. Men also can get hernias, dislocated disc, but they, you know, the body type, yes, is made for more of a heavy lifting. So I could see this. I could see, you know, what she's speaking about or what she's trying to get to here. She says a very nice touch is to prepare tea for her in bed. So add to the 10 minutes of hugging, the running back and forth, the staying up at night, prepare tea for her or a detailed lunch, which she can later brag about to others. And if your woman wants something that you can't afford and provide, whether a car or a glass of water, verbally insist that you should get it and then get it. However, you should not get into the habit of physically serving her too much. This is a feminine act, and serving anyone too much is emasculating. I'm gonna keep going. Regularly undress or dress the woman.
Oh, Father, we're to that part already. Oh, Father, go ahead.
Undress. So not only are you serving her tea at dinner, but not at nighttime, not too much. Then you should dress her, undress her. For this, she will respect, and maybe again, but they'll be like, you guys are too far removed from this life. We don't know romance, or whatever the case may be. So this, we have to really kind of look at our of how, because dress and undress the person. She will respect you as a leader when you do this. Don't talk to her. Why it's important, don't talk to her while you're doing that. Like, yo, shh. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna undress you, but I'm not gonna try to feel up on you. You know what I'm saying? She's saying that it's not about feeling up on the woman. It's just about, I guess, being present. When the children start to gang up on your wife, sternly tell them to stop harassing her, she says, and make the wife be the top priority. If she has things herself for long to do, she'll become masculine thinking and confused about her role. So basically, and my husband does that. If I'm resting and the children is like, mommy, he's like, hey man, let your mother sleep. So, because the children will push the limits. I'll say this. When I will come around, you like, what? He said it one time. So I definitely understand. And that happened as we were children. My mother would say, do this and do that. And then my father would say, your mother said, boom, all of a sudden everybody started moving like they had marching orders. So I definitely understand, because mom is the nurturer. She is the communicator. She's the one who's there all the time. She can't be so stern because it's going to confuse the children. She has, like my son trying to give me a hug right now, which she should be in his bed. She's going to confuse the children. And so, when Pops come in, he says one thing and I don't know what, I'm like, what? How did you do that? Let me get some of that. But again, I definitely understand that dynamic. Where was we? Oh, if your wife becomes too masculine, it's going to ruin your marriage, your sex life, and take a huge piece of your masculinity with it. And then she says, guaranteed. It's guaranteed. I know we were kind of, having a little bit of fun with some of these ideas. Again, it takes trust, vulnerability, time to be in this space that she's talking about, all while trying to keep your head above water, which a lot of people find themselves in. Let us know your thoughts. Because he has some more time that he has to appropriate for himself as well. You want to wait till you get to how many hours a week the wife is supposed to get amongst all of this stuff. So would you guys like me to keep reading for the sake of time?
Sure.
All right. For the sake of time.
I just want to say one thing.
Go ahead.
With the dressing and the undressing, it still sounds a lot like he's treating her like a child. Like, you dress and you undress your children. I understand that there's supposed to be something sexy about being dressed by your dude, but I really don't see it only because it's so consistent with all the other ways he's treating her like a child that it's hard for me to extract the original context. Because consistently she's saying women and children, she's lumping in the woman with the child. And so to ask me to suddenly now see this as a separate thing where the woman isn't being infantilized, but instead is being understood in this extremely adult womanly kind of context, it's out of nowhere. It doesn't have any precedence. It's not being, it's just kind of, you're asking me to suspend reality to all of a sudden come into this new space that you didn't set me up for all along.
Right.
So that's why I find it a little kind of difficult. to follow this train of thought that now I'm being understood as a woman in this space, and he's dressing and undressing me because he wants to uh, show me some kind of womanly affection, and not that he's treating me like a child again.
And hopefully he's not Jamaican, because he's gonna I'm like, wow, you can't put on your own clothes. Hopefully you like one to your hand, nothing wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? You know, most of you, like, you coming off of maternity or something happened, and he come baby, remember, put on your clothes. But other than that, like, what's wrong? Come on now, let's go. I'm just saying, it really depends. Like Sister Mayanah is saying, in context, which we talk about a lot here, is in context, it does kind of look, you know, like, you know, something else. But we'll continue. He's saying, share with the children, share your hobbies with them, read stories to them, buy things for each of your family members, keepsakes, things of that nature. Be involved, be present, make a commitment, full commitment to your family, you know, to say that you will be there. And sometimes there's some children who truthfully never heard either their father or their mother say, I love you. So these are some of the things that we're carrying as a people, you know, all fun and joke aside. These are some of the real things that she is saying, you know, be aware, you know, don't take it for granted. Express this to them. Let them know that I love you, so that they know what it sounds like, what it feels like to hear it being said, not just to say, oh, I give you food, clothes, and shelter. That's love. No, let them know, sit down. And I could definitely, because I do this with my children, you know, they speak to their father, they see their father. He always says, I love you. It's not unmanly for a man to say, you know, son, I love you. Because there's some sons who grow up who've never heard their father say, I love you. And so, but he comes from a space where his father says that all the time. And so this is something for us to, and I saw a video with a young man, his language was, you know, a little bit off the chain, but just to see that in that space where his language was so off the chain, him speaking about being there for his daughter brought him to tears, which brought me to tears, you know, because of this expression of this love and us regaining the words to say, because we're coming from a space where those words were taken from us. We were robbed of the ability to have this expression freely because it meant danger to us. You know, it wasn't like little Jimmy is skipping around and nothing's going to happen. Okay, you love little Jimmy. You won't let me do X, Y, and Z to you. I'm going to sell him. So your children will begin to be used as a weapon against you. And to this day, many people carry that kind of tough love that I love you, but I can't show you because something might happen. And so definitely it's something as it relates to somebody who's always into healing and having that conversation. I wouldn't minimize that point at all. It is very important to communicate what she says in 26, the way your family understands and needs. And so, you know, be there for them. She goes on to say, feminine women need verbal. Then again, when you be like, yeah, you said something, and you be like, why did you want to say that? She says, feminine women need verbal communication in order to feel intimately close to anyone. If you do not give her this, your woman will either become masculine or get this type of verbal expression which she needs from someone else. Be sure to devote some time to sitting and focus while you both talk. Petting, not sex, while you talk, will make this ritual more easy and enjoyable for both of you. So focus your attention on her, ask her a bunch of questions. She's coming back again with the act like you're actually listening and not just waiting for her to be quiet. She says again, as the man, again, she's still talking to the man, that he's supposed to create emergency plans. That's just wise. That's wise. Make sure that you have, you know, things that you have in order for your family in cases of emergency. Did somebody want to say something?
No.
Okay. Make certain that your woman feels safe. And this is a lot of reason why women tense up and don't allow themselves to be vulnerable is if she doesn't feel safe.
Right.
She goes and say, no matter how she behaves, your feminine wife looks to you for safety. Don't pressure her for sex. Women who feel pressure for sex feel horrible and it's unsafe to women. It's also your job to make her feel non-sexually loved. Right, so just don't objectify her. If you do this daily, you can enjoy sex with her daily. This is where she gets into the part. I think the part that
you get the psychology and everything.
She's like, yeah, right here. The minute's like, yo, make this a bestseller, son. Now she's promoting in addition to all of the other responsibilities, now he's supposed to give out his life force every day. Like every day, I'm gonna need you to expel your life force. And when we look at that, which I have my own thoughts, but I will just leave it for right now. When we just continue to look at, she says, any sex outside of this is obligatory sex, which a good man does not want. So she says, do all of these things, and then I'm telling you, guaranteed, she's gonna be dropping it a day. Let me go on here. Now here we get into some timekeeping. Spend about 10 hours a week keeping your masculinity centered. So remember, you have to spend 10 minutes a day hugging each child. Right. And you have to spend 10 hours for the week keeping your masculinity centered, whether it be, listen to this, keep masculinity centered through professional massage, by spending time with gentle women like nuns, geishas, or grandmothers. I don't know how you got geishas in there with grandmothers and nuns. Where she go? Come on now, y'all. Come on now.
When I saw that, I was like, geishas. Okay.
Geishas is up in there. She threw up geishas in there. And then she says, who appreciate you non-sexually or through sports, hobbies, or by spending time in your man cave.
Okay, wait. To be fair, our understanding of geishas is not necessarily authentic. Geishas, like the ginsengs and the gisengs in Korea, were actually like the Harati in ancient Rome, were women who entertained but not necessarily. Well, Harati was pretty sexual, but the ginsengs and the geishas were the women who were the best studied in politics, the best studied in arts. They were the best studied in music. They were very studied in serving. Like what they would do is they would serve tea while the men talked politics around them, and it's just having their feminine presence there was what the men wanted them to do. So they wrote the most beautiful poetry. They were the most actually the most educated of the feminine classes were the ginsengs and the geishas. And in fact, the first geishas were men. So I mean, you really want to talk about it? They were men. So they became women later, but they were originally a class of men. So, yeah, I mean, so the idea of it being non-sexual isn't completely wrong, but I don't think that like our comment critic, who's always in our comments telling us what we're not getting right, with the 99.9% of the people who are going to interpret the word geisha are going to think sexual. They're not going to think non-sexual, because that's not our classical experience of what the geishas did or what the geishas were all about. So,
Sister Mayanah put us in our place, you know what I'm saying? Although I have, I like watching international films. I do see a lot of the geishas, but the geisha, it just threw me off. Like geisha.
No, like I'm agreeing with you. I'm bringing it back to, remember when the gentleman tried to check us, saying, oh, well, she used the tango and the waltz because 99.9% of the people are going to be able to relate to that. Okay, 99.9% of the people who see geisha are not going to think non-sexual.
Correct.
So that's the point that I am making. I know that, and you may know that, but the 99.9 people who are going to pick up this book are going to have the response of, how do you put geisha next to none?
And grandmother. So I did the numbers. You got 1.4 hours a day. Either your choice, gentle women, nuns, geishas, grandmothers, whichever you choose, or go hang out with your homeboys. So you got 1.4 hours a day doing that, plus however many children you have times 10 minutes. And so we look in. Thanks, Sister Mayanah, for clearing that up on us on the geisha joint right there. Like you said, everybody may not think of geisha as, what it is. So he gets 10 hours, okay? The babies get 10 minutes a day, and then spend at least 15 hours a week focus on your children. Focus your children means no electronics, no movies or busy work. You don't have to be involved in an official activity to be spending focused quality time with your children. You can be doing something simple as listening to music, drawing, or cleaning your car, or just as long as you focus on the children. So I guess we'll put the 10 minutes into those 15 hours a day. So if you put 15 hours a day divided by 7 weeks, 2.14 hours you spend with the children, plus the 1.4. So 1.4 is yours a day. 2.7 is theirs. So far, 3.5 hours of your day is with her suggested, what is it? Scheduling, right? I just want to see if we are bugging out in this. It goes on to say, spend at least 40 hours a week focused on your wife. 40 hours. Okay? So we're at 3.5 right now, 3.54. 40, I'm serious. I'm hard body, got my calculator. 40 divided by 7 is 5.71 plus 3.54. So far, he's up to 9.25 hours of her prescribed husbandly for the day. He didn't go to work yet.
He had no sleep.
He didn't sleep yet. He didn't eat, or he didn't go to the bathroom yet. So far, he's been chilling.
No travel.
He's been chilling with geishas and grannies. He's been.
Yeah. I know. I could see why she referenced the walls, because this is like a performance. It's like a dance step. 1, 2, 3. This is the reason why she referenced the walls. It is.
Yes.
Because it's right now is he's juggling, like he is the jester right now in the court. He's up to 9.25 hours, and then she says this is huge. Nearly 100% of the men. This is one of the first times we actually see the men, the people who were interviewed, actually come back up since the beginning. And she says that the men who they interviewed were unknowingly spending about 40 hours a week with their wives. They expressed that they naturally do this because it's beneficial to their family overall. And they said these hours don't include sex, electronics.
Oh, Father.
So remember, every day, if you do this, they're supposed to be dropping.
Right.
Hours are not the drop it hours. These hours are only for connecting.
Oh, okay. So what's the 9 hours?
This is your couple time, not to be confused with child time. I don't know where the children are. If you have children, I don't know how you're dropping it like it's hot and doing all of this all in the same day. But I'm going to continue. She's telling you how to touch her in a non-sexual way without touching her behind, her inner thighs, her breasts, or her vagina. Whatever you do, do not allow sex at these times. So not only are you supposed to spend these 40 hours, you cannot try to sneak in your dropping time at this time. And so she says, it's ideal.
Obviously, she is not survey any West Indian man or any black man in that survey that she did.
I don't know
any black man. Do all I in my experience, brothers don't even go over scripture with you if he can't wife you.
This is a lot of talk time. We go okay. We already established that this is not that time. I don't know where that time is going to come from. Not giving your woman 40 hours a week of your time also probably will force her to complete masculine tasks which you are not available to do. Be very careful not to give money or buy things. So don't try to buy the time. Like, I can't spend the time. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to hit you up. She says, don't do that. Right. And then after you spent that time, you're supposed to get out your bed and check on your family every night. Physically get up and go check on them before they go to bed. If you happen not to be at home, send a text. Don't go to sleep until, make sure all your family members are inside house safe. Consistently provide. So you just spent 9.25 hours for the day. Didn't work yet. So now 33 says provide money, gas, food, clothes, home, water, electricity, and all more if possible. Whatever it is, it must be completely reliable so that they can learn to count on you. Even if it's just $5 a month, in the mail for your children to actually see. If you make a mistake, start over again. So if he does this, even if he has his own job, he has, and I was talking to my brother, if he's going back and forth, because I did these numbers before, and say he works an 8-hour day, that means he's really working for somebody. You know what I'm saying? And if he's in commute, say we give him a 10-hour day, him going and him coming, right? So we're gonna give him a 10-hour day plus a 9.2, and he's up to 19.25 hours for the day already. By the author, it's already scheduled into what she has said he should do to be successful.
Right.
He didn't sleep yet. So how long are we going to give him to sleep?
You need 8 hours sleep.
He needs 8 hours sleep. Is that mine? That's minus the drop it like it's hot time, because so wait a minute. I'm gonna give him 8 hours to sleep. This is like the Bill Cosby episode. It's 20.
Oh yeah.
Right now he's up to 27.2 hours. How many hours are there in a day?
24 every day.
So right now he's up to 27.25. He did not bathe. He did not personally groom. And wait a minute, that could possibly go to his man time. It could go to his man time. So how much time a day are you going to give him for drop it like it's hot time? Being that
but wait a minute, he has to, when he does give her the intimacy, the drop it like it's hot time, he can't do it when he's tired, because if he feels like he's going to fall asleep, he can't do it then.
So then how much time are you going to give him? 30 minutes? 45 minutes? Why's Mayanah laughing? I'm silly.
Because he spent more time with Granny than he's gonna.
I'm gonna give him because he can't rush her. He can't objectify her. So I'm gonna give him 45 minutes. I'm gonna give him 45 minutes.
Remember, Emunah.
Yeah, go ahead, sis.
Remember, she said that he has to have time because he has to make sure that everything is lubed up. She said you can't go to her when she's dry. You got to get it all lubed up first. So you got to put in foreplay time.
Yeah, you got to give her. That's why I gave him 45. So right now we're at 27.7 hours. Okay, this is if we got a little bit of feedback. This is if we put in all of the suggestions in the manual. Okay. She says, stay connected each and every day. I can see that. You should be constantly checking on your family at least 2 to 3 hours. Every 2 to 3 hours, you call in, checking on them, calling, checking on them, calling, and checking on them. We're going to go. She says, stay connected, always talking. Always remember to kiss and hug. Okay, we got that. And show love, PA, what they call it, public affection. Keep your word, which is one of the big things that women have with men, not keeping the word. She says, rightfully so, a man's word is golden. If you say you will do something, you must do it, except if he tries to add hours to the day. Then he could say that all he wants, but he probably won't be able to add an extra 3.7 hours to the day. So you might have to, say things within reason, and ask questions, be open, don't physically hurt or dominate your family. So, the demanding, I would really like to hear her explanation on the demanding, because again, she said no negativity, no violence, no profanity, don't threaten, don't hurt, no pulling, no hitting, no spanking, no pushing. This is what she says to the children. Don't threaten them, and you're supposed to protect them. And don't try to overpower them because they're weaker than you. And tell them how they should show you affection, what it is that you think is respectful, and how they should show you your appreciation. And yeah, that's the end of chapter 2. We're going to have to come back to do chapter 3, because chapter 3 is a whole nother beast. That's with the drop it like it's hot time. That's like something totally else. She says, many women are around here are probably behaving and thinking as men. This book's reinforcement would be a huge help to keep your family priorities in the proper order. Many modern women will not be willing nor able to properly love and care for their families as a feminine woman. So she's probably discounting a lot of people who she says won't be able to adjust to what I'm saying. So don't worry about that. It's your chance to choose the right woman to assist you in properly nurturing and rearing your family. That was She said that this is the server as a checklist, and everybody kept talking about checklist. She actually says that this book can also serve her, meaning the woman, as a checklist or reminder in today's confusing time. So there we go. We are at 27.7 hours. If we want to keep him healthy and alive, to be able to continue to be a provider for his family, he's actually negative 3 hours and 3.7 hours a day. Your final thoughts, ladies. Your final thoughts. This has been most entertaining.
This has definitely been most entertaining. Like you said, if he's alive at the end of the day, I guess it's worth it. I think in this particular case, anybody who is taking her advice, the course, whatever, you have to pick sense out of nonsense. You have to use those things that you can apply in your relationship, in your home, and apply them. But also realize when this is a little bit too much, because even from just covering just what the men are expected to do, we already see that there's not enough time. I'm just kind of waiting to see when the other stuff come into play, what's going to happen, This is just things that we're taking from another people with different responsibilities, different mindsets, different resources than we have. Because some of them, they had their money. The husband didn't really need to work because he had plantations and businesses and all these things. So he sat down and dealt with politics, and that's what he did, went and supervised and came back. Our men, they're fighting for their life. Like you stated, Emunah, in survival mode. They're in survival mode. They're fighting for their life. We're fighting for our life. We're fighting for our children's life. We're fighting just to exist. So some of this stuff is just maybe when we get to the point where we can sit around and not do anything and just worry about the tea plates and the serving the tea, then we can, this will be good. Maybe. If you got 27 hours to spare.
All right. Thank you for joining us, sisters.
If you got 27 hours.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. My computer is bugging all the way out. Okay. Let's go ahead and close that. I want to thank that Sister Shelly on. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you'll join us again as we continue this conversation. Again, men, we love you dearly. We're not picking on you. I say it, I keep saying it, if you're willing to let your voice be heard, feel free to do so. We keep it clean, we keep it respectable. As you see, we have some light points where we have to be able to laugh at ourselves and realize that when you take the theory into practice, it may not always convert. You may lose a little bit. It's like they say, lost in translation. This just sounds very whimsical. It sounds very, theoretical, like, oh, it's all up here. And when you put it down here, it changes form to a certain degree. And we have to ask whether or not a lot of this is even realistic, judging by many things, like the fact that the man is human and, using your life force every day. Sister Mayanah, go ahead and let us know your closing thoughts for chapter 2, Sister Mayanah. What are your thoughts?
I think that we touched on some really important parts about it that are good, and they have good merit and good value, and that the intention is something that would be useful. I think that we have done a pretty good job of expressing why it's not always practical or realistic, some of the approaches. And I think that any readers that are interested in considering this as a practical guide for something they plan to implement in their lives, or they're going to hang their hopes of having a fruitful union. I mean, the reason that this is appealing is that either there are single women who want to enter into marriages, or there are women that are in marriages that they think need some kind of repair. And when you are looking for that, then you need something that's going to actually work. And if we're not able to look at these approaches with some sense of discernment, instead of getting excited about the promise and excited about the potential, just to kind of take a few steps back and think about, can I do this? Can he do this? Is this something we should be doing? Is this about us? Is this, like I think usually off the air, Emunah and I talk about, this is a sort of a diagnosing of an ailment, of a condition. And if the condition, let's say the condition is that the person has diabetes, getting the cure for cancer, that's not what you need. You need the cure for diabetes. And if the demographic is melanated families that have a very particular history and have very particular economic, political, and social or racial factors, those things have to be treated. You can't pretend they're not there and give this population a dose or medication that's not for them. China is not going to solve why, melanated men and women have a divide between them, or why we aren't reaching certain economic markers, or why, our men are employed at a disproportionate rate, or why they are paid at a disproportionate rate. You can't say, well, the European man is doing it. The European man is not on the same playing field as our men, and it's unrealistic and it's unfair to look at our men and say, why can't you perform at that level? We know why they can't perform at that level. And we can't impose these standards and say, well, you should stop making excuses. And I think that's another thing that she likes to do. She makes everything that is realistic an excuse. Stop making excuses. Slavery is not an excuse. Systemic racism is not an excuse. The fact that our men are being shot down like dogs is not an excuse. The fact that our women have been deprived of their femininity on various stages, from the way white women look at us, to the way white men look at us, to the way our own men look at us. And you can't just pretend like that's not happening because you have decided that it's more convenient to reduce our womanhood and our humanity to bullet points. And whether or not, there's some kind of sexual cherry on top at the end of it. Those are my closing remarks.
All right now, I want to thank everybody who has tuned in, who will tune in. That was the voice of Sister Mayanah. I want to thank Sister Shelly on for coming on and having this discussion. We're up to chapter 3, which holds some, if we thought chapter 2 was interesting, chapter 3 is even more interesting. Like I said, once again, we are kind of understanding that this book was written a few years ago, back in 2013. So we try to keep abreast to see if, again, as I said earlier in the broadcast, if she's grown in any of these estimations. Is this the same information that she's pushing forward? Because I have heard some feedback that, well, that's not what I'm hearing, the book, and I'm like, well, that's what the book says. And the courses are based on the book. So there's this bit of confusion between what she's saying now and what the books are saying. And that now has to be investigated as well, because as I said offline, if I have a course that I paid money for and a book, and you told me to get this book and this course and they don't correlate, then now I have an issue. You understand what I'm saying? And so we'll continue to investigate. And again, this is not the only place that we do this level of investigation. No one please feel that we're teaming up or beating up on any particular body. Tomorrow we have on Brother Sal Showtime Debate Talk for You. I'm your co-host. Sister Mayanah is a home panelist. We will be speaking of self-worship. What's the topic? When praise goes too far. And so it's this balance that we have to have within ourselves, the balancing of these energies that exist within us, this masculine and energy, this push and pull energy within us, this need for praise, this need for acceptance, this need for attention, and how it can go overboard. and how now it's just about what everyone is giving to me and I'm taking it onto myself. And I said, in truth, when I read this, what came to my mind is like, it's borderline worship of self or worship of the other person. So if I do all of these things to build you up, don't agitate you, because when I saw domestic goddess, I'm like, domestic goddess, you know, and then I begin to see angel of the house. And when you read more into the what it's about, I'm like, wait a minute. So for me, it looks like a form of worship, because, you know, only you worshiping something so much that you don't even have any more time in the day to do anything else. Like, you went overtime. You in the negative per day. So that has gone beyond the call of duty in my estimation. But that's just me reading the entire book and realizing that something unhealthy in the degree is going on here. But that's just my Solonomics opinion. What do I know? Once again, my name is Emunah Yisrael. This is Solonomics special report. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And
thank you.
You're most welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. I hope that someday I can come back.
Definitely. Come back again, sis. All right. Good night, everyone.